Welcome back to the archives for the round 3 game in the October Skirmish. Game in 60, delay 5. Into this round, I was 2 out of 2. I only had a few minutes between rounds 2 and 3 because my round 2 game finished so late. It was the last game. So I went into this game and I really wasn't in the right mindset for the opening. I was playing the top seed, a young national master. And my opponent played the Caro Kann, which I expected, but obviously it's pretty impossible to prepare in between rounds at a game in 60 event with 4 rounds on a Saturday. And in this position, I play a variety of things, and I was planning on trying something new this game, and instead I just played something that's not actually real. So I played knight f3. They played e6, and I played h4. And in this position, you can play knight f3, you can play h4, you can play knight c3, you can play a lot of things. But you can't play knight f3 and h4. Those aren't really compatible. And as a result, in this position, black is at least equal from the get-go. So we continue on. I already know that my position is not ideal. I try and trade off the bishops to weaken some of these light squares, and the move bishop g4 really highlights the problem with playing knight f3 and h4, is now I've got this weak pawn, this pin is very strong, not a great position. So I decided to trade off his knight. He plays queen b6, and I decided to go all in. So this position may initially not look terrible for white, and objectively it's not lost yet, but it's just very hard for white to play. My king's not really going to be safe on the king side. I can't really castle queen side. I don't have any good pieces. Not sure how this knight's going to develop. The bishop can't really leave the b pawn. I don't want to put anything on the d2 square because that's going to block my defense of the d4 pawn. He's going to be able to undermine the e5 pawn. So just lots of problems that maybe are possible to solve, but all of them together, the position's pretty impossible to play. At least it felt that way at the time. So I went all in with rook to h4. I said if my position's bad, I'm at least going to make it messy. So rook to h4. He captures, and we reach this position here. My king, still no idea what's going to happen with him. Development on the queen side, still no idea. But I've dealt with the pin. My d4 pawn is safe. Things are looking slightly up. He gets his knight to f5. And he castles. I was a little surprised he castled, because I thought maybe I could get something going on the king side. I have finally developed this knight. My bishop's still stuck to the b pawn. And in this position, I decided to go even more all in. And I played the move g4, which I thought objectively probably was not the best move. But it seemed to give me a lot of chances. I would chase his knight around, get it out of play, and then try to create play against his king while his queen's stuck here on the queen side. The other move I was considering, rook to g4, does look like that's the best move in the position. Wasn't sure what the follow-up would be, though, whenever I was planning. So g4, knight h4. And he attacks my rook. I was happy to give up this exchange to try and develop this bishop if I can do it with some kind of tempo. So I wanted to get my king out of any checks by the knight. He plays f6. And we reach this position here, where I am down an exchange, but I've created some opportunities and weaknesses on the king side, and I was much happier with this position, which is objectively lost, compared with the position 10 moves ago, which was right here, especially before rook h4. If we look all the way back here, This position objectively about equal, but not happy with it at all. I know I'm just going to suffer in this position and just get beat down and outplayed by a much higher rated opponent. So I didn't want to sit there and suffer. So we reached that position with bishop to e5, and I felt like this position has chances. If black plays well, of course I'm going to lose, right? It's a bad position. But black has to be careful. And my opponent up to this point was playing very quickly. They're a quick player in general, a strong player. But I thought maybe if I could make a complicated, messy position and they didn't slow down at the right moment, I would have my chance. So they chased my queen a little bit. And for a brief second when they took my knight, I thought, aha, I got them. They aren't going to be able to stop rook to b7, attacking the g7 pawn, and they're in trouble. But of course, they have the move rook to f7 here. And we trade down into this endgame where it's queen and bishop versus queen and rook. Now, if I can keep their queen out of the play or their rook out of play and open up their king even more, get my queen in there on the dark squares, lots of potential threats. So I moved my king up to avoid any annoying checks, keep him nice and safe, and go ahead and threaten queen to e7 checkmate. They move back and stop it, try and open up their king even more. And my opponent captures the d-pawn, which I expected, and I thought, okay, they capture the d-pawn, they've got a challenging position, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to threaten checkmate on g7, which is hard to stop. However, we both missed that white actually has a much stronger move than bishop to e7 here. This is the only point in the game where white is winning. Take a moment and see if you can find the winning move for white. All right, if you were thinking queen g6 check, then you are correct. That actually picks up the rook as the king has to go back to g8, and we swoop in and capture on d1. Unfortunately, we were both solely focused on the g7 square and completely missed it. And that was my one chance. After that, my opponent is able to play their queen back to the passive h7 square that does just enough to defend against checkmate, and there's not a great way for me to continue to increase threats. So I want to keep the queen and bishop on the board as long as possible. Threaten on g7 again. When they go back to stop it, I go ahead and try and threaten on g7 again, but they're able to trade things off. And after king to g2, they're simply going to capture with their queen on e5, and I'm going to lose. So, not a super long recap here, because honestly, it was a bad opening and a bad position. One interesting moment in the game where I missed my opportunity, but overall my opponent played very well. I tried to create chances, but hopefully I will be able to create a harder game for them to win next time we face off. I'm bound to play them again, maybe even tomorrow in my next tournament, so I'm looking forward to that, to give them a better game. At least, if I have the white pieces, I need to pose more challenges in the opening against this Caro Kann. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed the quick recap. At this point in the tournament, I'm sitting at 2 out of 3 with 1 round left. And in that final round, I'm going to be playing a familiar player in the local chess scene, but they've got a surprise for me. So I wasn't ready for it, and it was an interesting opening. So it will be fun to go over that one. It's the first time I've ever faced that opening over the board, but I'm sure you guys have already heard lots about the opening recently. Good luck in your games and your studies, and I will see you guys next time.